Hey everybody, it's Rose here. As I promised, I'm starting a gardening series to get us both through a whole year of gardening. So believe it or not, it is time to get out there now. Actually, we could have started in January by doing some pruning and some little tasks, but it's never too late. So we're starting now. It's March 3rd, and here we go. First, as you can see, I'm in my garage, my messy garage. I didn't fix it up because I want you to see that I'm a real person, I'm not perfect, and I don't know everything there is to know. I'm not an expert, but I do know I love gardening and I do have some great experience with it. I've been gardening for many years. I can picture myself like 15 years ago. I was so experimental, but I've come a long way and I've learned quite a few things. I was a master gardener for 6 or 7 years. I graduated from some intensive programs at Longwood Gardens in ornamental horticulture and in landscape design. Then I practiced as a landscape designer and a professional gardener for a few years. And I'm a member of a few horticultural societies where I go out and I learn and I get inspired by other people's gardens and their ideas. I also love visiting public gardens, and even at amusement parks, I find myself attracted to all the landscaping where everybody else is running to the rides. I just love plants and horticulture and nature and gardening. So, I'm thinking about calling my little series Getting Grounded in the Garden, just because when I'm outside working, actually I don't like to think of it as working, but that is the word that we use. We're working outside or playing. I feel like I'm not only getting things done, I'm getting myself grounded. When you're surrounded by nature, all the sounds and sights and all the little surprising delights and when you get into that zone, you kind of get yourself grounded too. It's just a great way to get in touch with yourself. So, all right, let's get back to business here. I want to get you started with 5 simple steps today. Things that you can do to get yourself ready before we even go outside. It is a rainy day, so that helps. That makes me stay put and just talk to you for a little while. But most of the time after this, we will be outside moving around doing things. So bear with me. All right, before we start, number 1, take a good look and think about your own yard, your own space. Think about all the things that could be dangerous right now. These are the things that should be addressed first. If you have broken tree limbs that are about to fall, or if you have a slimy pathway by your mailbox or on your sidewalk because you have tree branches hanging over, it's time to get that cleaned up and take care of the problem. If you have pesky critters around your property that you might have suspected, but now you can see there are holes, especially around your doors or your porches. There might be snakes or mice, and you might also see tunnels of groundhogs. This is the time to think about what you're going to do about these problems. You can also look for the spotted lanternfly egg masses. We've talked about those before. This is the time to get out there and scrape them away and dispose of them safely. The next thing is to figure out what should be done. You might have a slimy landing by your back door that needs to be corrected. You might have a big drainage area that always collects water. You could possibly put some stones or some nice perennials in there whose roots will soak up all that extra moisture. You might have some plants that are heaving above the soil outside. This would be the time to gently cover them up and make sure that they don't die from the roots being frozen. And where you could address your compost pile, if you don't have one already, this is the time when you can start one. You're going to be out pruning soon, and all those little branches can be thrown into your pile, along with your kitchen scraps and everything else. You might also see some weeds while you're outside. Hey, get them now, scrape them up before they get those seed heads that will make more weeds. Actually, if you scrape them up now, make sure you get the roots, just gently scrape them up. You could leave them there, and they will decompose and add to your soil. Now, you might also want to start thinking of practical projects that you could do. I'm not saying you need to do them all this year, but if you write them down or put them in your phone, in your notes, you have some initial ideas that you can address right now. Things like, oh, that hedgerow of all those dead boxwoods has been bugging me for years. Maybe this is the year I take them out and plant something else there. Or you might hate the way your air conditioners show as soon as people pull into your driveway. You could think of a plan or some plants that you could place right in front of it, or put a fence there. You might have a place where you store your lawnmowers or your toys, either big kids or little kids' toys. You can think of a way to hide those. Plants have a purpose, and they can help you hide things around your yard as well. If you have invasive plants, this would be a great time to get rid of them. You know, you can get down into those roots. The soil is not really frozen right now. It hasn't been an extremely cold winter, so you could get a lot of those invasive weeds out now. Oh, and you can plant a big sticker bush right under your teenage daughter's bedroom window. Oh, just kidding, but it could work. Honestly, think about the problems, think about your yard and all the things that you could do to make a nice difference, things that would make you more happy with your surroundings. Okay, now it's time to dream. Think about looking out your kitchen window, doing the dishes. Picture yourself having an island there with a bird bath and a few trees that attract birds and some bird feeders in the trees. If you've ever had thoughts of this, write it down now. This could be a project for you. It might not all get done this summer, but it's an idea, it's a dream. Perhaps you remember being in your grandparents' yard and they always had this beautiful, fragrant lilac bush. And you always said back then that you would like one in your yard. Well, write that down. Or perhaps a nice real cherry tree, not just the ornamental type, a real cherry tree or apple tree or pear tree. You may, while you're sitting on your back porch, you might have a special area where you've thought, oh, I would love to just sit here and watch the butterflies or the hummingbirds. Well, put that on your list. Perhaps you would like more of a play space for your kids, more of a grassy area. Well, you could define that grassy area and then have plants around it. So you're writing down your projects and your dream ideas. Now I want you to think about, what style do you really like? What attracts you when you drive or walk by a property? Do you like a nice, tidy, uniform look in a yard? Or do you like more of a free-flowing style? Do you like when flowers bloom continually through the seasons and they're all kind of coordinated? Or do you like more grasses or a lot of stones? Do you want more or less mulched areas? Think about all these things and write them down. If you don't write them down, if you're anything like me, you will forget and those ideas will just go down the drain somewhere. Okay. You cannot realistically attack all of these plans in 1 year, but at least it's a start. The start for this year. Okay, so that was number 1, thinking about things you want to do in your yard. Here's number 2. Organize and prepare all of your tools and materials. By prepare, I mean clean them. You might have to pull them out. They might be muddy and even have some cobwebs on them. Put them in the sink or even in the tub with some warm soapy water. Let them sit for a while and scrub them down. That's what I had to do with my 2 shovels here. I want to show you this shovel. This is my favorite. It's called a spearhead spade. I love how I can just get down into the roots. I can dig anything out with that. And this one comes in handy to turn my mulch pile. It's not a transfer shovel, but I can scoop up quite a bit of compost or soil with that one. I can load mulch with that one in and out of the wheelbarrow. Okay, so something new I'm going to try this year, since my hands always get so beat up. I always have dirt under my fingernails. I'm always scrubbing them, and there's no way in the summer I can have nail polish, nicely manicured fingers. So here's what I'm going to do this year. Putting on these vinyl gloves, and then I'm going to put on my gardening gloves. I can feel everything with the vinyl gloves, but when I just use the gardening gloves, they don't protect me from the dirt. So here's my new thing for this year. You might also want to try it. I got this whole box of 50 vinyl gloves for $1.99 at this discount store called Ollie's. Okay, so you have gloves. You'll need something to kneel on, either a kneeling pad or knee pads. I prefer knee pads, but I can't find mine. I must have thrown them out last year. You know, they're not the most attractive thing, but they really protect your knees, especially as you get older. Okay, you're going to need some tools. Now for pruning, I highly recommend that you do not ever get anvil pruners. It's a waste of money. The anvil pruners are the ones that have just two blades that meet up in the middle, and they're really meant for cutting off dead branches. You can actually do the same thing with bypass pruners. The bypass pruners have two blades that kind of cut and cross each other a little bit. So I recommend you buy the bypass pruners, not the other ones. Okay, I have two different ones here. I know this one only cuts up to 3/4 of an inch. And this pair I just bought this morning. Oh, I have to remember when I put them down to close them, always. And always have blades pointing away from you. Okay, this one here can cut up to 1 inch, and it has a titanium blade. Oh, what's going on here? So these, I'll be really thrilled to use these this year. And you might also want to have on hand a blade sharpener like this one, so that every so often you can just scrape it along your blades after you clean them and sharpen them. It really works. You can also use this on your knives in the kitchen. Now sometimes the pruners don't work. So, oh there it is, okay. You'll need to use a pruning saw, a hand saw. I'm not used to these little buttons right here. Here you go, it clicks open. You can actually saw a branch up to probably 2 or 3 inches in diameter. Okay, I was trying to use this one the other day, but this is old and rusty, so I figured, oh, it's time to get a new one. And I like the idea that this one can close up when you're not using it. Good idea, especially if you have children around or animals. Okay, this is one of my favorite tools ever. This is what I call a digger. It's made by Fiskars. There's another one called Hori Hori, H-O-R-I. It's basically a digger. You can dig up weeds. You can plant plants with it. You can, this is the great thing about it, you can cut your weeds or branches with it because it has a really nice serrated edge here. You'll see how I use it this season. And this one in particular, this Fiskars brand, has a little ruler on the side. So sometimes if you're planting bulbs or whatever, seeds, it'll tell you to plant them 3 inches deep. So at least you'll know when you put this in, you have your ruler right there. So I highly recommend this. The problem I have with gardening tools is sometimes I leave them outside and they get all rusty. I'm sure I'll be out there gardening with you and we'll see a few old pairs out there. So we have those. I have some twine here. This is biodegradable jute twine. Sometimes you have to tie branches together. This comes in handy. Something you should always try to keep with you is a rag or a washcloth. This is one big washcloth that I cut into 4 pieces. Put it in a plastic baggie with mostly water and about 1/4 of the amount of liquid in rubbing alcohol. So when I'm done with my tools, especially if I know there are bad insects or bad diseases or fungus or bacteria on my plants, I will always wipe them off immediately. I know in the past I said, oh, I better clean these off when I get in the house. Then you get in the house and you're so distracted, you just forget to do it. So you're going to wipe these off and then make sure they dry before you close them. If you ever use bleach to clean your tools, make sure you get all the bleach off and dry them because the bleach can cause rust. Okay, now I usually keep my tools in a bucket so I can carry it wherever I go. Oh, I don't want to close those yet. Oh, my shears. Look at these. These are brand new. These are my pruning shears, or head shears they call them. I got the extra long ones. They were more expensive, but I'm taller, so I need to be able to reach plants down below. I just feel like I can get a better range of motion with these. Okay, they're nice. I like the way they sound when they hit together. So we're going to try to keep these all in one place every time we use them. This You should actually get a new one every time you go out. And if you don't make a baggie, then just bring your tools in with you to wash. Really a good habit. I have a couple bungee cords. Actually, this is one adjustable bungee cord. It goes from 6 inches to 48 inches. You'll see how we use that in the future. So all of these things right here I have listed. Make sure you go out and get them soon. You might also have them already. Another thing gardeners do quite often is trade with each other. So if you don't have a tool right now, ask your neighbor if you can borrow theirs and vice versa. That's the thing about gardeners. I love plant people because they're great people. They all appreciate plants and are all willing to help each other out. Many of my plants in my yard are from friends who just say, oh, I think you might like this. So it's a great thing. Okay, number 3, seed starting. I'm not a big seed person. I tried it a few years in a row. Maybe it's because my kids were growing up and we were so busy all the time, but I went out and got the heat lamps and the heating pads and the shelving units and everything, and I would plant the seeds in the little trays and be really careful with the tweezers and everything, plant them, and then I didn't have the lifestyle where I could go back and water them sometimes 2 or 3 times a day in the beginning and regulate the heating and alternate everything. I just couldn't do it, but I know there are a lot of people who love planting from seed. It can save you a lot of money. You probably feel more of a sense of accomplishment when you see your seeds go from little tiny seeds all the way to big plants thriving very well in a garden. So I can tell you right now, I am not the seed person, but this is the time of year to start planting seeds. So if you're interested, you can always go online, or you can call your county extension office to get information about planting seeds. It's a whole, there's a whole science to it. Some are simple, some are more difficult. Okay, so that was number 3. Number 4 is get your body ready. Okay, here we go. I'm going to show you some exercises you can do to get your body ready. Because you know when you go outside and you work in your yard for the first time, you will suffer for a whole week after that because you'll be in so much pain. So here we go. Oh, I had it on the table and I forgot to mention it. One thing you might want to consider doing is starting your own gardening journal. Honestly, I've never done it myself, but I think I'm going to start one this year to help both of us get through our gardening process. When you have a journal, it keeps you more in tune with what you're doing. It helps you remember what you've done and remember what your plans are, record all the results. You can take pictures, put them in here, before and afters. You can make lists of plants that you want or plants that you have, when you planted them, what the weather was like, when they bloomed, all those things. So we're going to use this binder. I made sure I picked one that had had 2 inside covers so I would put my plant labels, all of my receipts, and any possible seed packets or tags from bulbs that I might plant. They would go right in these pockets, so everything will be in one place. So I think I'll take you through this from time to time to see how you're doing in your journal. If you start your own, you can decorate it. You can keep it as simple or as complicated as you would like. I could tell you right now, mine will be really simple, basic shapes, pictures, that look like round bushes. So if you don't like the idea of making your own, there are many online that you could look through. And as you look through, you can get ideas of what you might want to put in your sections of your book. Okay, catch you later. Hey, enjoy your slice of the earth. Don't forget to tune in next time when we finally get out in the yard to do some gardening.